Hi, welcome to Nexic Byton. This video we're going to focus on the brand new Canon EOS R1. Now, I've had the chance to test this camera in real-world situations for most of the day. Canon actually invited us out to Germany to try it out, shooting everything from basketball to breakdancing and even some low-light photography and video. Even though Canon flew us out, everything I share here is my genuine opinion. You can take it with a grain of salt if you'd like, but honestly, I was really impressed with this camera. I wasn't expecting to be blown away, especially because modern flagship cameras across the board already have excellent performance. But the R1 surprised me, especially in the way it handles autofocus. That part really stood out to me. The Canon 1 series has a strong legacy behind it. The last one was the Canon 1 DX Mark III, which launched in 2020. That was 4 years ago. So it was about time for Canon to release a proper RF mount version. And the R1 is exactly that. Sports photographers, photojournalists, and broadcast professionals are really the ones Canon is aiming this camera at. The R3 was good. I liked it a lot, but the R1 feels like a step beyond. It really feels like the next level when you actually use it. Now, if you just look at the spec sheet, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing numbers with other cameras. But in my experience, the R1 is about more than specs. It's about how all of those features come together. For me, it was the autofocus tracking that stole the show. Of course, the image quality is great. The video performance is also fantastic. The camera is built to make your workflow faster and easier. But the way this camera tracks subjects is something else. When you're shooting sports, for example, the R1 draws boxes around each player's face and keeps track of them all. If you turn on action mode, the camera goes a step further. It figures out where the action is happening in the frame, who has the ball, who is most likely to interact with it, and then locks onto that person. That's wild. It uses algorithms and deep learning to make those decisions, and the results are impressive. I found that it nailed focus every time. My shots came out sharp and clean, and I didn't have to think twice about whether the camera was going to miss the subject. All I had to worry about was my framing and keeping up with the action. That's exactly what you want in a camera like this. The R1 feels like a proper tool. That's what the 1 series has always been about. These cameras need to be rugged, reliable, and built like tanks, because professionals use them in demanding environments. From my time with it, I think Canon nailed that balance here. You feel the toughness and performance the moment you pick it up. Now let's talk about the core specs. The R1 comes with a 24-megapixel sensor. This is a partially stacked CMOS sensor. Some might argue that Canon could have gone for higher resolution, but I think the choice was intentional. At 24 megapixels, you get plenty of detail for cropping if you need it, but the file sizes remain manageable. That matters a lot for professionals who need to shoot at high speeds and send files quickly. Larger files would slow things down, and with the R1 shooting at up to 40 frames per second, you're going to fill up memory cards very quickly. Keeping resolution balanced ensures speed and efficiency. Image quality from this sensor is beautiful. You get the colors you'd expect from Canon, with excellent sharpness and detail. On top of that, the camera introduces a new processor, the DIG ICX, paired with a DIG IC accelerator. This combination makes everything feel snappy and responsive. From startup time to shooting to connectivity, everything is quick. Wi-Fi 6 support makes file transfers faster, and you can also use Ethernet. What's nice is that the camera automatically switches between Wi-Fi and LAN if you plug or unplug the cable. It's those small quality-of-life touches that make it easier to use. Canon also added useful features to improve workflow. For example, if you take a shot and need to crop because you're far from the subject, the camera has an in-camera upscaling function. You can crop and then upscale the image right in the camera, producing a detailed, clean result. There's also a neural noise reduction process built in, so the upscaled image looks smooth and sharp. The big advantage here is speed. You don't have to wait until you're back at your computer to crop and upscale in software like Photoshop. You can do it instantly and keep working. That saves time and keeps you in the moment. The R1's shooting speed is another highlight. At its maximum, it can shoot 40 frames per second. That's insanely fast and especially useful for sports or wildlife photography. But you don't always need that speed. Canon lets you vary the frame rate, so you can shoot slower if you want, 2, maybe 16 frames per second, which is often enough for most situations. Having that flexibility means you can adjust depending on the subject you're shooting, without being overwhelmed by unnecessary images. But let's go back to autofocus, because that's really where the R1 shines. Canon has taken their dual pixel AF technology to the next generation here. The R3 already had impressive autofocus, but the R1 pushes it further. It now handles tracking through obstacles incredibly well. If your subject moves behind another person, the R1 can estimate where their head is and continue tracking. It sounds like something that wouldn't work reliably, but in practice, it works shockingly well. I was surprised by how accurate it was. The subject detection is also smarter, thanks to new deep learning algorithms. The camera recognizes different poses, joints, and movements, allowing it to lock onto subjects with stunning accuracy. While shooting, I didn't miss focus at all. Every shot was sharp, and I didn't have to think about focus. That freed me up to focus entirely on composition and timing, which is exactly what you want. There's also the action priority mode, which is especially handy for sports. You simply tell the camera what sport is being played, and it does the rest. Right now, it supports football, basketball, and hockey. These are all team sports where multiple players interact with a ball, so the camera can analyze the scene and predict who is most likely to be involved in the action. It then focuses on that player automatically. Watching it work in real time is pretty incredible. This is not a gimmick. It's practical and very effective. On top of that, Canon added pre-capture functionality. If you half-press the shutter, the camera starts buffering images, capturing up to 20 frames before you fully press the shutter. That means if you press the shutter a little late, you still get the crucial moment. For sports photographers, that could be a lifesaver. That's just scratching the surface. But those are my first impressions after spending time with the Canon EOS R1. It's clear, Canon has thought carefully about what professionals need, especially sports and news photographers. From autofocus to speed to workflow improvements, it feels like they've listened and delivered.